hold a meeting, council meeting of September 9th across the orders. Each stand for the pledge. And I'm going to pledge allegiance. So very well. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Call the roll.
Here. Alderman Meyer.
Here.
Alderman Hampshire.
Here.
Alderman Bach.
Here.
Alderman Parrish.
Here.
Alderman Brad.
Here.
Alderman Gephardt is absent. And Mayor.
Here. First up, we have the public hearings, which we have none. So we'll move on to personal hearings as a public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda, we do so at this time. If you desire to be heard on agenda items, you may be heard when that item is considered on the agenda. Speaking to the microphone of the podium, time limit is 5 minutes. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on any item not on the agenda? Seeing none. On to public officials reports. I have an abnormal amount of public officials, so bear with me. First of all, just a little bit south and west of us, we now have functioning traffic lights at the intersection of Weston Drive and Mequon Road. So 3 or 4 years of a bureaucratic mess is finally over. We have our functioning stoplights. We can only hope now that people obey them faithfully. So that's good news. That also is subject to many complaints in the public survey, which is reviewable. Another WISDOT items at the intersection of County Line Road and Port Washington Road, usually recall we ended up, us as the council, maybe not everyone here, but this council approved the installation of traffic signals at the sole cost of the city. After WISDOT took them out at the last minute for the I-40 project. I'm happy to report that as of last week, the city was issued a refund from WISDOT for half the cost of those traffic signals after a little diplomatic wrangling and doing some calculations on site triangles and travel distance and timing. So we got half our money back. That's a good story to tell. And then, of course, this last weekend we had a taste of Mequon. It was really well attended. I was there most of the day. But that doesn't happen without a lot of people from staff working. So certainly, everyone on staff from Kerry, who was the coordinator or the liaisons and staff, from staff to the committee, Public Works, working more overtime this weekend on top of all the overtime from the floods. And of course, the PE and the fire department being there to support as well. And then we have the committee members, and for once, I'm going to actually read their names. They work hard all year. They work hard all year to make sure these events can happen for us, and it requires a lot of work we don't get to see. So here are your festivals committee members: Vanessa Nerman, Jenny Hone, Tracy Johnson, Lisa Lilligren, Rebe Moshe Lucas, Brandon White, Deanna Conley, and Betty Henry, Brett Benson, Jan Worth. It's a dedicated team that works. They go to meetings every month, just like we do. They work off hours, making these things happen, and they show up in mass on the event to help make sure it goes on. Without their efforts, we don't have festivals in that one. Festivals, the board really high in the survey, so I think we need to stay committed to festivals. So good job, festivals committee, and everyone from staff who helped out. I mean, applause for everyone. Short round of applause for everyone. And now I have one proclamation to give. Our annual recognition of National C-Tracks Think Train Week. So 2,252 rail grade crossing collisions resulted in 749 personal injuries and were responsible for 216 fatalities in the United States during 2024. 1,465 trespassing casualties have occurred in the United States, resulting in 821 pedestrians killed and another 644 injured while trespassing on railroad property rights of way during 2024. Educating and informing the public about rail safety, reminding the public that railroad rights of way are private property, enhancing public awareness of the dangers associated with railway grade crossings, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways and obeying established traffic laws will reduce the number of avoidable fatalities and injuries caused by accidents involving trains and citizens. The International Association of Chiefs of Police, National Operation Lifesaver, United States Department of Transportation, and all local, state, and county and railroad law enforcement officers, first responders, and railroad corporations commit to partnering together in an effort to educate at a national level all aspects of railroad safety, to enforce applicable laws in support of National Sea Tracks Think Train Week. Accordingly, I, Andy Nervin, Mayor of the City of Mequon, on behalf of all citizens of the city, proclaim September 15th through 21st, 2025 to be National Sea Tracks Think Train Week, and I encourage all citizens to recognize the importance of rail safety education. So be safe out there, folks. Moving on, are there any public officials reports from the city administrator?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few quick updates. We've been on a long summer road tour here and using the American Legion Hall for our meetings since April or May earlier in the year. We also had a long-range financial planning meeting at the Mequon Nature Preserve. But we're due to be back in City Hall in the next couple of weeks as the renovation project for the Common Council chambers wraps up. So this will likely be our last meeting here. Our long summer tour will come to an end. I just want to thank the American Legion for being good hosts and having us here throughout the course of the summer, not only for Common Council meetings, but other meetings as needed. A couple of those meetings are still yet to take place. Mayor, you mentioned the open house, the Mequon Commons open house, which will be held here next Wednesday from 4 until 7 p.m. Members of the public and residents of the city are invited to come in at their leisure to peruse some of the options that our partner, the Code Group, put together in response to feedback that was generated through surveys and an open house that were conducted back in April. They'll have easels with boards and other graphic materials that the public can come and provide input on, which will then be funneled to the Common Council when we get together, hopefully in the council chambers for our committee of the whole meeting next month, as discussed just a few minutes ago. Additionally, the Board of Review will be meeting here in the American Legion Hall the following week on September 25th. Their annual meeting will start at 8:30 a.m. And so far, we've had one filing of an appeal on property assessments, which are related to the revaluation process that was commenced earlier this year. Last month, there were a number of residents and property owners that visited City Hall during the open book period in early August, and a further opportunity to appeal any property assessments generated through that revaluation process will again take place on the morning of September 25th here at the Legion Hall. Anyone interested in appealing their property assessment must file a notice of appeal with the city clerk's office at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting. So any appeal must be filed by 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, September 23rd. More information on this process, as well as application materials related to any such appeal, are available on the assessor's page on the city website. And then lastly, as we move back to the council chambers, an email out yesterday indicating that the appropriations committee meeting, where the council will consider the recommended draft budget for 2026, is scheduled to take place at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, October 7th. So just want to note that that'll be our first meeting before our next council meeting, also scheduled for the council chambers. So Mayor, members of the council, that is my report from the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. We have 6 sets of board and committee meeting minutes to approve. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I
Motion and a second. Are there any corrections on those items? I don't think so. Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. On to ordinance 2025-1683, an ordinance amending section 62-10(d)(4) of the Mequon Municipal Code related to common council approval of signs on public property. Is recommended by Public Development Committee on August 12th. First reading, common council also on August 12th.
Motion to.
In a second. Any discussion required? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Tomato. Aye. Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderman Hanson.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Brown.
Aye.
The ayes have it. On to resolutions. Our first resolution is a little problematic because we had it last minute cancellation of a committee meeting. If, correct me if I'm wrong, but in order to take it up, we would need a suspension of the rules. So if people want to take up resolution, I'll read the resolution. I'm here to want to suspend the rules. Resolution 4228, resolution approving award of a contract for completion of a hotel development market feasibility analysis to Repar International Incorporated of Alexandria, Virginia, in the amount of $51,400. In order to discuss this resolution, we first need a suspension of the rules, since there was no committee meeting for council. Motion and a second. Just for the record, please call the roll on the suspension of the rules.
Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderman Hanson.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Brown.
Aye.
Alderman Tomato.
All right, we can now take up this resolution. Kim will give us a quick overview. And I'm not sure we're doing the change in our plan, so we have the consultant available online, if they're just available to call me.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. The consultant is not available.
This opportunity, take it away.
So tonight's action is to award the contract for the consultant Repar International to conduct the hotel market analysis. And this is really just one piece of the puzzle of really a holistic approach that we all have been working on in order to ensure and maintain the health of the commercial corridor for Washington Road. We all remember the Washington Road market analysis, and the feedback and the results of that market analysis were really positive. That the Washington Road corridor is in really good shape. There are a number of things that we can do to maintain its economic health. There are a lot of other tools that we have in place for the Washington Road corridor, including 2 TIF districts, the streetscape project that we're continuing to work on, and we'll discuss that agreement later tonight. But in addition to that, we have our TID incentive policies under those 2 project plans. And the goal of all of these tools from an economic development standpoint has really been to encourage redevelopment to happen. And one of the other work programs that we have as part of this effort is to evaluate the zoning. So the market analysis has given us some information that's going to help us with the zoning. We talked about that at last month's committee of the whole meeting. The survey results are helping us formulate that zoning as well. The hotel RFP and hiring of a consultant is really just, again, one piece of that puzzle. The market analysis identified an opportunity to have and foster transformative redevelopment, and 13 varying sites were identified. The opportunity for the hotel was really about something unique, an opportunity to have a catalyst economic impact on the corridor. So all of these things combined can help us streamline entitlement process for development, hotel or not. But in this particular case, it's really intended to help us identify what market merit there is for a unique hotel in this corridor. Is it an opportunity on those potential 13 redevelopment sites that were identified as part of the market analysis? It allows us to adjust and accommodate through zoning the type of standards that would be necessary for a hotel to be attracted to the corridor. And then last but not least, it helps us understand if the city has a role in a partnership in attracting a hotel. And if we do, what is the economic benefit? What is the public benefit of doing so? And how best would the city engage in that process? So the objectives of this RFP is to really consider where a hotel would be best be positioned if there is market merit to it, and what are those benefits and how can the city engage. And as a reminder, the market analysis indicated that there is an initial market response and potential to a hotel in that I-43 Port Washington Road corridor, more of a unique style, smaller scale hotel of about 60 to 100 rooms, likely 4-star plus, a higher end business amenity to it, and the opportunity, which the market analysis talked about as well, an opportunity to create attraction for entertainment in the corridor, particularly on the weekends, which was a niche in the market that corridor has not yet been able to start. The other goal is to look at other revenue sources that the hotel might deliver. And so part of the RFP asks the consultant to look at the room tax revenue that we've identified as part of the financial workshop. So RevPAR International is obviously an international firm with over 30 years of experience in providing advisory service. They really run a full advisory service complement to their organization. They have over 10 projects in Wisconsin, and they have extensive public service clients. One of the things that we found that was a little bit unique about RevPAR was that they do a lot of local ground level analysis to really better understand, that local depth, and they conduct a lot of on-site research and interviews. They then supplement that with your typical data-driven analysis. And they do have well-established relationships with a number of major hotel brands. So in terms of our process, we established an internal review committee that included Mayor Alderman Gebhardt, the Executive Director of the Chamber, Tina Schwantes, our Economic Development Board Chairman, Tim Carr, and then 2 staff members. We did have Economic Development Board serve as the recommending body throughout this process. We had a great success in turnout with the RFP, issuance of the RFP. We had 10 proposals. The committee decided to interview 4 consultants, narrowed the scope down after that interview process to 2 finalists, or narrowed the pool of candidates down to 2. And I think one of the things that the internal review committee learned in part of the process was that we really wanted to focus on the smaller scale sort of unique hotel that would deliver some of these amenities. We weren't necessarily interested in further engaging if it was, your typical hotel that maybe we see at the rest of the I-43 corridor. So that caused the internal review committee to go back to those 2 final consultants and ask them about narrowing the scope. We knew we weren't going to really want to take further components of either of their proposals and pay for that additional analysis if we didn't quickly learn up front whether we could attract the type of hotel that we really wanted to. So we asked them to sharpen the pencil on that first component and scope of the proposal, and we were able to save some dollars that way. So these, the recommended consultant with RevPAR was also in part because of their responsiveness to that narrowed scope. That first scope of services is about $23,000 and allows the city to decide after that market analysis and that local work that they're going to come and do within the community. If we choose based on that analysis that's really not the right fit, then we can end the contract. If we continue to get positive feedback through steps in each one of the steps of the proposal, and we can make quick decisions about that positive feedback, there is the potential time-wise to be able to have the project completed near the year end of this calendar year. I think if there's any specific questions about the proposal or how this further aligns with our other economic development goals, I can certainly answer those questions. The contract award is intended to be paid for out of both of the TIF districts on Port Washington Road, which is TIF 4 and 5. And I do just want to comment that there appears to be substantial gains in both of those districts coming for 2025, in part because of the reevaluation. And long-term projections for both of those TIFs show substantial revenue from now until 2039 when those close out. Part of what the Economic Development Board has talked about is like, if we're going to have these TIF districts, let's make sure we're encouraging development to happen, utilizing incentives where it's best suited in order to get the redevelopment to happen at a quicker pace than what it might otherwise happen if we just allow the private market to take its own course.
Thanks for the quick overview. Maybe yes. I'm sure there's a couple of questions. I saw Alderman Bach with his hand up first, so you're closer, so it's easier to get.
Thanks for the update. You know, I still have mixed feelings on this whole hotel thing. I think it was like 30% of the survey respondents said they were opposed to a hotel, but I think we have to proceed carefully on this. And I'm glad that the city is driving this rather than the developers. So I think the process is good, because then you don't have developers coming and saying, hey, I want the spot. So I think that's good. Just a couple of questions. One, I mean, I was surprised to see the dollar amount, you know, for this. But my two questions, maybe you could just give a little more information on this hotel combined entertainment district and what that kind of means, you know, what you're looking at. And then maybe just a little bit of information so residents understand on this TIF or the TID that's paying for this. So the taxpayer says, hey, you know, what's the city spending $51,000 in their taxpayer money for this? Where does that come from? So people kind of understand that. So those are my two questions.
Sure. The first one regarding the entertainment district, I don't think there's a suggestion that we're creating an entertainment district. That's not really identified as part of our zoning work to date. It's really just acknowledging that the market analysis talked about a niche in the market that isn't being served in that particular commercial corridor, and then a number of uses that we could attract just from the market data that was done as part of that analysis suggests that there are more opportunities for entertainment venues. So a hotel that can deliver some entertainment component to it, and that can be anything from a rooftop, you know, patios, you know, like, you know, a rooftop bar, you know, that maybe gives you views, you know, that you don't otherwise get, or just some of that entertainment component that might happen as part of business clientele coming to the city. Those are additional customers then, right, that are using other services and products throughout the corridor. Right. And so the restaurant, right, isn't just for people who are using the hotel, it just provides, and, you know, perhaps wedding venues or catering or business training opportunities. So it just the potential of the type of hotel that we might be able to attract would get us maybe some of those ancillary benefits of having some entertainment fueled in the corridor as well. And then in terms of the two TIF districts, we have the opportunity to use dollars that are generated from development that's already happening in those two TIF districts to pay for advisory services like this that help us then turn that information over into potentially allowing for that redevelopment to happen. It doesn't necessarily mean that the city has to engage further in terms of participating in a development project through any type of incentive. It's just that we do have policies as part of those project plans through the Economic Development Board that have been approved by the council. No really different than what we've done over here in Town Center. That if there is a gap that the city can fulfill with the use of those TID dollars to help the project occur quicker. And of course, there's a lot of analysis that goes into that too, making sure that we get that, project value back and tax revenue back and pay the TID.
Alderman Meyer.
I too was a little concerned about the pricing of this. I was a consultant for a while. But did I hear you say that, first of all, do we need to have another market analysis of whether we just have them? And it's talked about the, it's everything after that. What's the difference in this between what we just heard and possibly also now spending $23,000 to do another market analysis?
Sure, so the market, the analysis that the consultant will be doing will be specifically targeted to what type of hotels we could attract based on demographics that already exist in part from the previous market analysis. But they're looking at data points that are completely different. And even our consultant at the time of the market analysis said she's not an expert in the hotel business, so she couldn't really take the analysis any further. So this is really an expert in that hotel industry, filling that gap of that data. And because of our request throughout the process, the internal review committee went back and said, we're not really interested in just any hotel. We want you to sharpen your pencil on the type of data that would attract the type of hotel that I've previously described.
But I hear you correctly that after the market analysis, like the grant, we decided to build that contract because of it.
Correct.
Yeah, we structured it so that we find out early on that there really isn't enough market demand to be financially viable. There's no reason to go through the rest of it. And I guess regarding the price, most of the proposals that at least the ones we entertained seriously, there were 10 respondents, we looked at 8. And then we chose the interview 4, most of them priced similarly. There was one respondent that priced themselves much lower, but it was clear they were more interested in coming to the conclusion that yes, they're going to get a hotel. And also he wanted to be the guy to develop. So we want to be cautious about this. This is a major decision. I don't want someone necessarily invested in the outcome, be against, and then eventually get the business, but being the guy driving the process. That's what drove us away from the low cost provider when we interviewed them. The rest of them were all plus. They're all priced similarly, a little, some above this, some below it, but I think if you average them out, Redfall was rated at price ones with that one data point. Removed obviously, but yeah, this is just doing a little bit more due diligence down the road of an actual hotel use and someone with some industry experience. One of the things I like about Redfall is they're often retained by the owner of the hotel to oversee hotel operations. So they're basically like the owner's rep in many instances to make sure the hotel is run in a financially viable manner. So they got a lot of experience running hotels. So I think they're well suited to make a decision or make a determination on if one's even viable here. Alderman Tomato was to the baton pass.
I can talk about. I'm going to be voting against this tonight. I think Mequon is not the way that our service came back. We are interested in family venues, and I think that is something to proceed with. We are very family-oriented community. I think that while a boutique hotel would be wonderful, I do not want to spend $1 of any money fostering this, spending more time when we could be developing something for our community that has been expressed and been wanted and desired, and why families are coming here, and why people don't want it, like, we're not a place to go see, is because we don't have that family entertainment. So while I really appreciate all of your thus far, and I do think that there is a time and place that not will see something like this, I don't think that's what our residents are after right now, and I don't think that's what's gonna help our city front. So tonight I will be saying no, I think we need to rethink this. I think we really need to focus on our family, our community, finding that entertainment niche that would bring people here, bring in tax revenue, and do something very beautiful along this corridor, and I don't think it's gonna take too much time.
Good comments, Alderman Tlaco and Mayor. I'll try to modify my comments based on what I just heard. For good comments. But before I do so, wanted to thank the Economic Development Board, who, this is kind of a unique initiative. I really feel like this is being recommended by the board. This is like a staff driven thing here. This is where board that voted 6-0, did their due diligence. By the way, commend them for the process of staff and our review committee. So you definitely, you did it right. Good job. The survey that just came out was extremely timely. So I actually, and we'll put it on the record, I think we need a hotel that is of the type being described here. So the survey came back only 47% in favor. Would have been nice if it was over 50%. 68% were in favor when you include the neutrals. That's for just like a normal crappy hotel. That's not what we're talking about. So I think talk about had we reworded the survey, I think we probably would have used the term luxury hotel. And my guess is the survey results would be way higher. So good for the Economic Development Committee for focusing on the 4-star with amenities. And I know that with my family visits, there's nowhere to stay. I'll stop in the comment right there, but they don't have enough options that I think that they should have. And they're not saying vociferous, they're gonna say that, so sorry. Hotel developers will not consider any sites that are not along the highway. I'm fairly confident of that, so if there were 13 sites that were the basis of the $23,000 cost, I'm just, this is one of my questions. They're evaluating 13 sites.
No, and that was a little bit of some confusion that we had in the process too. I was just being informative in the RFP that 13 were identified as potential redevelopment sites, not necessarily for the hotel. So we had that discussion, particularly with Red Park. We're gonna cut through those 13 sites pretty quickly if the project proceeds. But they are gonna look at the entire corridor.
I'm probably not in favor of anything that's not on the east side of Port Washington Road, but I agree with, just to put that out there. Couple things, very pleasantly. But so component one, I am in favor of it. I did, by the way, speak to Alderman Gephardt about a lot of this, so I feel like I have a good sense of where the name's coming from, how he feels, and he's very strongly in favor of this. Partly because there's an exit ramp along every step of the way. There's also a termination option with 15-day notice. So my end question would be for the city attorney: has he reviewed the contract? Is he sure that there is this piece by piece, kind of take the exit ramp whenever we want with a 15-day notice? So I'll say that last, just giving you time to think. I would say for component two, that no developer is going to want a spoon-fed financial analysis. So I do think that if I am unlikely that we'll do that component of it, I think we'd be better off offering credit out of the TIP funds. So once the developer has secured a site that we like, and contribute towards maybe some of that part of their analysis that needs to be done. That would also say the same for, hold on a second. I'd also say the same for construction costs, but I do definitely agree with you that economic impact component is probably needed as soon as, but that can be based on a budget number. It doesn't need to be like based on the minimum maximum value. It's like for the development, it's like for the developer to choose a site and yeah, we'll offer this part of our tip money once we have what we want, kind of like credit. And then finally, marketing pitch book and identify developers. I'm interested in what that looks like, but not necessarily sure we'll ever get to that stage. So again, the contract is structured that way. I like it being a developer-driven process where maybe we offer some credits to developers for some of these costs. Once they identify a site, they'll be like, finally, I just have a legal review question, just confirm that we get that it really does indeed stop it at the component one market study, and after that, be comfortable with the 15-day termination. And so I think we're good to proceed. I don't know,
Sure, very simply, yes, I can confirm. I go into more depth, if I go, yes, the contract will run, sir, I really do, sir.
Know if Director Allison wanted to respond to anything other than the termination clause.
No, I think initially was questions to me.
Okay. Alderman Hitch.
Favor, Elstone. Mequon is the largest city in the county, and we got no high volume in town at all. It's surprising. As far as, family, vendors, I don't see this as being a, either this or that, both. So a hotel can serves a purpose, whatever they do, but that's to mean that we can't have other things that have family, vendors too, so. Then as far as a hotel with, entertainment where they can have weddings or celebrations, that adds to the family factor too, so. I guess I think this, it's long overdue, and that one has a quality of time. One of the survey questions, it's a great place to live, but it's putting down a place to visit, well, if they visit, they can stay in the city. Most of the time, they want people who want to stay in the city, it's not a quality.
Alderman Wire.
Question on the. I know this is idea with the narrow scope and related bulk work a certain milestone. The narrow scope. Could be this set how it would be. Right now, that like I said, they're good. Open instead of it, it's gonna be like. Two foods, container for food from one time. Instead of it just being. Narrow scope and the whole picture. I mean, that's the way that's. My hand, or my opinion is. Explain that to the legal inside of that.
The proposal by Revenue Card investigated the each one of those components, we have the opportunity to either move forward.
It shouldn't that be in the resolution or inside of the.
I think it's in the contract.
It's in the contract. So the service agreement is referenced, or the proposal is referenced in the professional services agreement. And the proposal,
That's in there, it's just. Things that are just set up. Brian.
So, it's segregates the aids. Chart, set schedule, middle of elements, and each one of those indicates that, for example, 1 and 2 says the legal to 2 to 3 weeks of authorization to proceed and receive a retainer. So it's built in that each step is upon your authorization to proceed with that next step.
But when you're finished, don't you come? So,
That's all you are. That's within the contract. Contract itself, the standard form agreement references both itself and incorporates it. And that language is where it's up.
yes.
Any other feedback from any problem? Please forgive. I do not believe we have a motion or a second. Motion and a second. Any last discussion? You can see none, please call the roll.
I say no.
Alderman Parrot.
Aye.
Alderman Bragg. Alderman Schlafly.
No,
Alderman Meyer. Aye.
Aye.
15 noes and 2 absences as a point.
So for the mayor votes aye. On to resolution 4229. Resolution authorizing replacement of the conveyor belt, rollers, bearings, and other associated parts for the cell phone loading system from Kimco USA of Marshall, Illinois, in the amount of $36,160. Nation for the Community Public Works Committee this evening. A motion and a second. Any discussion required? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Bragg.
Aye.
Alderman Schlafly.
Aye.
Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
And Alderman Mansion.
That resolution carries. On to resolution 4230, resolution authorizing the submittal of petition for disaster damage aid to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation in connection with culvert failure on Island Road. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
second.
Motion and a second. Good work on this one. Hopefully Highland Road will be back up soon. There's no other discussion. This isn't financially related to the voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution 4231, a resolution approving memorandum of understanding between the city of Mequon and Wisconsin County for the construction of road modifications and streetscape elements on North Port Washington Road between Mequon Road and County Line Road. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works. Motion in a second. Any further discussion? Last week, we'll have a MOU and hopefully we'll get to doing something for bigger project next year.
Yes, just real quickly, one of the items that came up during the session, we, was what exactly is approving, just, this is just approving the framework of the agreement between the county and city. There's still a good process for the contract itself, it's still come back to the council, for possession approval. So this is not authorizing anything to proceed at this point, it's just the framework between the two commitments.
Thank you for that clarification. Last we agreed that we could consider it project happening from Washington. If there are no other comments or questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution as well carries. Final resolution is resolution 4232, a resolution authorizing the purchase of police squad car rentals from American Defense Manufacturing of New Berlin, Wisconsin, as well as associated equipment from Brownswell Brownsville, Grinnell, Iowa, and Primary Arms LLC of Houston, Texas, for a not to exceed cost of $45,413. Recommendation for coming to the public.
Safety recommends.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions for staff? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Bragg.
Aye.
Alderman Toraco. Aye. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hatcher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
The resolution passes as well. We have no specified unfinished business in prior meetings. We have no specified new business. We do have one potential closed session item. If we move and vote to go into closed session, we will actually do that in the North Conference Room at City Hall, not at the region. And for everyone interested, when we adjourn, if we adjourn in closed session, we'll adjourn there. If we adjourn in open session, we'll also adjourn there. We're not going to come back to the meeting to adjourn. So is there a motion to go into closed session? Motion in the seconds. Please call it.
Alderman Bragg. Alderman Toraco.
Oh, you have to read the whole thing. Never mind. Let me read it, hold that thought. If I don't read it, then it's not valid. As we go into closed session for the consideration of the administrative performance update, town council may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, grid 1, grid C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction, or exercises responsibility, and then may be convened into open session to take such action as deemed appropriate. Did the motion and the second still hear you? Okay, now let's do the, sorry.
Alderman Bragg. Aye. Alderman Toraco. Aye. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hatcher. Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Mayor Gurke.
We're now about to walk to City Hall and go to closed session, like the closed session. Good night, everyone.